There we go. Hey, Sunshine, how are you? I was early, but I was still late. Go figure. Hey, Jasmine, how are you? Welcome in. Hey, I'll give you guys a little sparkling ASMR. Of course, you probably can't hear it. Nope. We'll just put that back where it was. And pretend I didn't mess that up. Hey Heidi, how are you? Welcome in. Good to see you again. I was hoping you would hear the fizzing from my drink, but that didn't happen. Something tells me we're going to have a light room tonight. But that's okay. You know, those of you that are here will hear the stories, and those of you that are not, well, they're just going to have to accept that they missed them. Hey, Wings, how are you? Welcome. Glad it's Friday. Oh, Sunshine, wouldn't you like to know? I have to be careful because I have been I've been recording an audiobook today, and it's very smutty. So I've been doing that all day, and holy cow, yeah. So my brain is, I'm like trying to shift my brain back into don't say dirty words mode. Yeah, Sunny, I was recording an audiobook today, doing a dual narration with another narrator, and whoo boy howdy, got a little spicy. It's good though. I mean, the book is great. It's a little spicy. I mean, I'm getting paid for it, so I'll say whatever you want. I'll say whatever they want, you know. But the author and the other narrator have been really great to work with, and once the book is out and ready, I will be letting you guys know so that you can go take a look at it, or take a listen. Yeah. Hey Eddie, welcome in, brother. How are you? So I hope everybody had a good week. My week has been, like, yesterday was Monday, right? Because I don't freaking remember. Really, like, wait, the week's over already? I still have stuff I need to do. Oh, good Lord. But that's all right. There's always next week. Hopefully. Thank you guys so much for the likes and the shares. I really appreciate it. It does certainly help get my face in front of other people's eyeballs. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, Sonny, that's not a bad place. That's not a bad thing to be doing. I do love me some Winnie the Pooh. I do have a special announcement at the end of the live tonight, which you guys have been asking me for you guys have been asking me to do this for a while, and it'll be the very first time we've read one of these books. So I bet you can't guess, or maybe you can. I don't know. I just haven't had any spare time this week. Just been constant, just barreling through to get stuff done, and find some ways to make some extra money. I'm still waiting to hear back from New York State Department of Human Services to see if I got approved for SNAP and the Home Energy Assistance Program, just to get me through till I can make up the difference and then never have to use those things again. But it's gonna be real with you guys. Yeah. You're not alone if you're going through it too, I can tell you that for sure. Hey, Lulu. How are you? You know, if you need help, you need help. That's all that matters. Oh, Sarah, I'm glad to see you. Jet, long time no see. Or at least I haven't. I don't think I've seen you in a while. The good night gummy is kicking in. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, it is what it is. You know, it's been a struggle to find a job and make extra money doing what I can. But need something to cover the gap, you know? I appreciate that, Jed. I really do. Hey, Lynn, welcome in. Good to see you. All right, we're going to give this... Haha, brownie's kicking in. I appreciate that, Eddie. I really do. Queen's got the brownies. Did you bring enough to share with everybody? Like back at school, did you bring enough to share with everybody? Alrighty then. Angela, yeah. It's good to see you. Welcome in. It's a potluck. A million audiobook deals. I have a lot of people who want me to do audiobooks that are... Hey, Cam Tam, good to see you. I have a lot of people... I'm getting quite a few offers for audiobooks that that are on the royalty share model. And I have been hard-pressed to accept any of those right now, only because I can't eat royalty share. If I was making enough money to cover my expenses, I would absolutely do royalty share. Primarily the biggest reason is that, you know, a lot of people who are doing royalty share are indie authors. They don't have a lot of money to spend, and I would absolutely love to support them and help them out and, you know, help bring their stories to life. Unfortunately, right now, I'm not in a position to take work that doesn't pay upfront or doesn't pay actual money right away. So, but I will be getting back to that soon, and hopefully we'll be getting more deals. But you know, we got to do the thing. Kat, did you just become a super fan? I can't see you right there. Oh, I do have another announcement that I'm going to make right now. I'm going to actually figure out how to get my mouth to work first. But what I am going to say is this: if you are a super fan, you are now officially a super goblin. That's all. That's what I was going to say. You are now officially a super goblin. That is what I'm going to cause That is what I'm going to call all of my super fans now. They're all super goblins. The rest of you are Storytime goblins, and there is no dishonor in being just a Storytime goblin, because you may have your own merch coming up soon. So, but yes, a special person in your life. Well, I'm honored. I am honored. I have people tell me that I remind them of a person, or in their life, but that's usually not a good thing. So I appreciate it being good. Yes, you are a super goblin, Jasmine. All right. Well, it is 10 after 9 p.m. here on the East Coast. I'd say let's get started. I don't time that perfectly at the end of the song. Yes, Wings, you're a super goblin. You are the super goblin. Sunshine is now super goblin as well. You all must be super goblins. Because I am weird. All right. So tonight is special. We are going to, well, you know what? I'm just going to read it. I figured you guys would like Super Goblin, I just think that's fun. Dude, you're totally weird. Welcome to the club. You're in the right place. That's what I'm going to tell you. You are absolutely in the right place. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. And welcome back to Storytime with UndeadPapa. Tonight, we spend an evening with one of the titans of science fiction of the 20th century, and that is Philip K. Dick. He most notably wrote the book that The Man in the High Castle was based on. He wrote the book that Blade Runner was based on, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? We've read his stories several times here on Storytime, and one of the ones that I could point out that I know everybody loved was Beyond Lies the Wub, which, if you remember that one, is a lovely, wonderfully strange story. But tonight we're doing two stories about things that we create and what happens when they begin making choices of their own. In our first story, humanity has retreated underground while machines continue a war. On the poisoned surface above, for years, people have trusted those machines to fight, to report, and to obey. But Philip K. Dick rarely asks us whether the machines will work. He asks what happens when it works well enough to begin questioning us. And later tonight, we'll trade the fate of humanity for something much smaller, much stranger, and considerably more ridiculous. So wherever you're listening from, dim the lights, sit back, and relax, because story time is about to begin. Our first story tonight is The Defenders. I clicked. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sunshine, yes. Hey, Crazy Mama, you are right on time. Like, skin of your teeth, right on time. I was just about to start the first story, so we're good. Sunshine, which book? Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? I cannot recommend it enough. It is amazing, and it is it's different from the movie, but it fleshes out a lot of the concepts that were in the movie. Another two of his books that I cannot recommend enough are Valis and Ubik. Valis, you have to be prepared for, because it is deep and it is wide, and when you are done reading it, you will question your own sanity. So, have fun with that. But it's a great book. Absolutely fantastic book. All right. All right, Kat. Well, it's good to see you here, and I'll see you over there. Whoops. Okay. I feel like I'm like less and less prepared. Taylor sat back in his chair reading the morning newspaper. The warm kitchen and the smell of coffee blended with the comfort of not having to go to work. This was his rest period, the first for a long time, and he was glad of it. He folded the second section back, sighing with contentment. "What is it?" Mary said from the stove. "They've pasted Moscow again last night." Taylor nodded his head in approval. "Gave it a real pounding. One of those RH bombs. It's about time." He nodded again, feeling the full comfort of the kitchen, the presence of his plump, attractive wife, the breakfast dishes and coffee. This was relaxation, and the war news was good and satisfying. He could feel a justifiable glow at the news, a sense of pride and personal accomplishment. After all, he was an integral part of the war program, not just another factory worker lugging a cart of scrap, but a technician, one of those who designed and planned the nerve trunk of the war. "It says they have the new subs almost perfected. Wait until they get those going." He smacked his lips with anticipation. "When they start shelling from underwater, the Soviets are sure going to be surprised." "They're doing a wonderful job," Mary agreed vaguely. "Do you know what we saw today? Our team is getting a leady to show to the school children. I saw the leady, but only for a moment. It's good for the children to see what their contributions are going for, don't you think?" She looked around at him. "A leady?" Taylor murmured. He put the newspaper slowly down. "Well, make sure it's decontaminated properly. We don't want to take any chances." "Oh, they always bathe them when they're brought down from the surface," Mary said. "They wouldn't think of letting them down without the bath, would they?" She hesitated, thinking back. "Don, you know, it makes me remember." He nodded. "I know." He knew what she was thinking. Once, in the very first weeks of the war, before everyone had been evacuated from the surface, they had seen a hospital train discharging the wounded, people who had been showered with sleet. He remembered the way they had looked, the expression on their faces, or as much of their faces as was left. It had not been a pleasant sight. There had been a lot of that at first. In the early days before the transfer to undersurface was complete, there had been a lot, and it hadn't been very difficult to come across it. Taylor looked up at his wife. She was thinking too much about it the last few months. They all were. "Forget it," he said. "It's all in the past. There isn't anybody up there now but the leadys, and they don't mind. But just the same, I hope they're careful when they let one of them down here. If one were still hot—" He laughed, pushing himself away from the table. "Forget it. This is a wonderful moment. I'll be home for the next 2 shifts. Nothing to do but sit around and take things easy. Maybe we can take in a show, okay?" "A show? Do we have to? I don't like to look at all the destruction, the ruins. Sometimes I see someplace I remember, like San Francisco. They showed a shot of San Francisco, the bridge all broken and fallen in the water, and I got upset. I don't like to watch." "But don't you want to know what's going on? No human beings are getting hurt, you know." "But it's so awful." Her face was set and strained. "Please, no, Don." Don Taylor picked up his newspaper sullenly. "All right, but there isn't a hell of a lot else to do. And don't forget, their cities are getting it even worse." She nodded. Taylor turned the rough, thin sheets of newspaper. His good mood had soured on him. Why did she have to fret all the time? They were pretty well off, as things went. You couldn't expect to have everything perfect, living under surface with an artificial sun and artificial food. Naturally, it was a strain, but not seeing the sky or being able to go anywhere or see anything other than metal walls, great roaring factories, and the plant yards, the barracks. But it was better than being on surface. And someday it would end and they could return. Nobody wanted to live this way, but it was necessary. He turned the page angrily, and the poor paper ripped. Damn it! The paper was getting worse quality all the time. Bad print, yellow tint. Well, they needed everything for the war program. He ought to know that. Wasn't he one of the planners? He excused himself and went into the other room. The bed was still unmade. They had better get it in shape before the 7th hour inspection. There was a 1-unit fine. The vidphone rang. He halted. Who would it be? He went over and clicked it on. "Taylor," the voice said, the face said, forming into place. It was an old face, gray and grim. "This is Moss. Sorry to bother you during rest period, but this thing has come up." He rattled the papers. "I want you to hurry over here." Taylor stiffened. "What is it? There's no chance it could wait?" The calm gray eyes were studying him, expressionless, unjudging. "If you want me to come down to the lab," Taylor grumbled, "I suppose I can." Weird. "No, come as you are, and not to the lab. Meet me at 2nd stage as soon as possible. It'll take you about a half hour, using the fast car up. I'll see you there." The picture broke and Moss disappeared. "Who was it?" Mary said at the door. "Moss. He wants me for something." "I knew this would happen." "Well, you didn't want to do anything anyhow. What does it matter?" His voice was bitter. "It's all the same. Every day. I'll bring you back something. I'm going up to 2nd stage. Maybe I'll be close enough to the surface to—" Don't bring me anything. Not from the surface." "All right, I won't. But of all the irrational nonsense—" She watched him put on his boots without answering. Moss nodded, and Taylor fell in step with him as the older man strode along. A series of loads were going up to the surface, blind cars clanking like ore trucks up the ramp, disappearing through the stage trap above them. Taylor watched the cars, heavy with tubular machinery of some sort, weapons new to him. Workers were everywhere, in the dark gray uniforms of the labor corps, loading, lifting, shouting back and forth. The stage was deafening with noise. "We'll go up a way," Moss said, "where we can talk. This is no place to give you details." They took an escalator up. The commercial lift fell behind them, and with it most of the crashing and booming. Soon they emerged on an observation platform, suspended on the side of the tube, the vast tunnel leading to the surface. Not more than half a mile above them now. "My God," Taylor said, looking down the tube involuntarily. "It's a long way down." Moss laughed. "Don't look." They opened a door and entered an office. Behind the desk, an officer was sitting, an officer of internal security. He looked up. "I'll be right with you, Moss." He gazed at Taylor, studying him. "You're a little ahead of time." "This is Commander Franks," Moss said to Taylor. "He was the first to make the discovery I was notified last night." He tapped a parcel he carried. "I was let in because of this." Franks frowned at him and stood up. "We're going up to 1st stage. We can discuss it there." "1st stage?" Taylor repeated nervously. The three of them went down a side passage to a small lift. "I've never been up there. Is it all right? It's not radioactive, is it?" You're like everyone else, Frank said. Old women afraid of burglars, no radiation leaks down to first stage. There's lead and rock, and what comes down the tube is bathed. What's the nature of the problem? Taylor asked. I'd like to know something about it. In a moment. They entered the lift and ascended. When they stepped out, they were in a hall of soldiers, weapons, and uniforms everywhere. Taylor blinked in surprise. So this was first stage, the closest undersurface level to the top. After this stage, there was only rock, lead, and rock, and the great tubes leading up like burrows of earthworms. Lead and rock, and above that there were tubes opened, the great expanse that no living being had seen for 8 years, the vast, endless ruin that had once been man's home, the place where he had lived 8 years ago. Now the surface was a lethal desert of slag and rolling clouds. Endless clouds drifted back and forth, blotting out the red sun. Occasionally something metallic stirred, moving through the remains of a city, treading its way across the tortured terrain of the countryside. A leady, a surface robot, immune to radiation, constructed with feverish haste in the last months before the Cold War, became literally hot. Leddies crawling along the ground, moving over the oceans or through the skies in slender, blackened craft, creatures that could exist where no life could remain, metal and plastic figures that waged a war man had conceived, but which he could not fight himself. Human beings had invented war, invented and manufactured the weapons, even invented the players, the fighters, the actors of the war. But they themselves could not venture forth, could not wage it themselves. In all the world, in Russia, in Europe, America, Africa, no living human being remained. They were under the surface, in the deep shelters that had been carefully planned and built, even as the first bombs began to fall. It was a brilliant idea, and the only idea that could have worked. Up above, in the ruined, blasted surface of what had once been a living planet, the leady crawled and scurried and fought man's war. And undersurface, in the depths of the planet, human beings toiled endlessly to produce the weapons to continue the fight, month by month, year by year. First stage, Taylor said. A strange ache went through him. Almost to the surface. But not quite, Moss said. Franks led them through the soldiers, over to one side near the lip of the tube. In a few minutes, a lift will bring something down to us from the surface, he explained. You see, Taylor, every once in a while security examines and interrogates a surface leady, one that has been above for a time, to find out certain things. A vid call is sent up and contact is made with the field headquarters. We need this direct interview. We can't depend on vidscreen contact alone. The leddies are doing a good job, but we want to make certain that everyone is going the way we want. Franks faced Taylor and Moss and continued. The lift will bring down a leady from the surface, one of the A-class leddies. There's an examination chamber in the next room with a lead wall to the center so the interviewing officers won't be exposed to radiation. We find this easier than bathing the leady. It is going right back up. It has a job to get back to. 2 days ago, an A-class leady was brought down and interrogated. I conducted the session myself. We were interested in a new weapon the Soviets have been using, an automatic mine that pursues anything that moves. Military had sent instructions up that the mine be observed and reported in detail. This A-class leady was brought down with information. We learned a few facts from it, obtained the usual roll of film and reports, and then sent it back up. It was going out of the chamber back to the lift when a curious thing happened. At the time, I thought... Franks broke off. A red light was flashing. That downlift is coming. He nodded to some soldiers. Let's enter the chamber. The leady will be along in a moment. An A-class leady, Taylor said. I've seen them on the show screens making their reports. It's quite an experience, Moss said. They're almost human. They entered the chamber and seated themselves behind the lead wall. After a time, a signal was flashed, and Franks made a motion with his hands. The door beyond the wall opened. Taylor peered through his view slot. He saw something advancing slowly, a slender metallic figure moving on a tread, its arm grips at rest by its side. The figure halted and scanned the lead wall. It stood, waiting. We are interested in learning something, Frank said. Before I question you, do you have anything to report on the surface conditions? No. The war continues. The leady's voice was automatic and toneless. We are a little short of fast pursuit craft, the single-seat type. We could use also some... That has all been noted. What I want to ask you is this. Our contact with you has been through vidscreen only. We must rely on indirect evidence, since none of us goes above. We can only infer what is going on. We never see anything ourselves. We have to take it all secondhand. Some top leaders are beginning to think there's too much room for error. Error? The leady asked. In what way? Our reports are checked carefully before they are sent down. We maintain constant contact with you. Everything of value is reported. Any new weapons which the enemy is seen to employ... I realize that, Franks grunted behind his peep slot. But perhaps we should see it all for ourselves. It is possible that there might be a large enough radiation-free area for a human party to ascend to the surface. If a few of us were to come up in lead-lined suits, would we be able to survive long enough to observe conditions and watch things? The machine hesitated before answering. I doubt it. You can check air samples, of course, and decide for yourselves. But in the 8 years since you left, things have continually worsened. You cannot have any real idea of conditions up there. It has become difficult for any moving object to survive for long. There are many kinds of projectiles sensitive to movement. The new mine not only reacts to motion, but continues to pursue the object indefinitely until it finally reaches it, and the radiation is everywhere. I see. Franks turned to Moss, his eyes narrowed oddly. Well, that was what I wanted to know. You may go. The machine moved back towards its exit. It paused. Each month, the amount of lethal particles in the atmosphere increases. The tempo of the war is gradually... I understand. Franks rose. He held out his hand, and Moss passed him the package. One thing before you leave. I want you to examine a new type of metal shield material. I'll pass you a sample with the tong. Franks put the package in the toothed grip and revolved the tongs so that he held the other end. The package swung down to the leady, which took it. They watched it unwrap the package and take the metal plate in its hands. The leady turned the metal over and over. Suddenly, it became rigid. All right, Frank said. He put his shoulder against the wall, and a section slid aside. Taylor gasped. Franks and Moss were hurrying up to the leady. Good God, Taylor said. But it's radioactive. The leady stood unmoving, still holding the metal. Soldiers appeared in the chamber. They surrounded the leady and ran a counter across it carefully. "Okay, sir," one of them said to Franks. "It's as cold as a long winter evening." "Good. I was sure, but I didn't want to take any chances." "You see," Moss said to Taylor, "this leady isn't hot at all, yet it came directly from the surface, without even being bathed." "But what does that mean?" Taylor asked blankly. "Maybe an accident," Frank said. "There's always the possibility that a given object might escape being exposed above, but this is the second time it's happened that we know of. There may be others." "The second time? The previous interview was when we noticed it. The leady was not hot. It was cold, too, like this one." Moss took back the metal plate from the leady's hands. He pressed the surface carefully and returned it to the stiff, unprotesting fingers. "We shorted it out with this, so we could get close enough for a thorough check. It'll come back on in a second now. We'd better get behind the wall again." They walked back, and the lead wall swung closed behind them. The soldiers left the chamber. "2 periods from now," Frank said softly. "An initial investigating party will be ready to go to surface side. We're going to take up the tube in suits up to the top. The first human party to leave undersurface in 8 years." "It may mean nothing," Moss said, "but I doubt it. Something's going on, something strange. The leady told us no life could exist above without being roasted. The story doesn't fit." Taylor nodded. He stared through the peep slot at the immobile metal figure. Already the leady was beginning to stir. It was bent in several places, dent and twisted, and its finish was blackened and charred. It was a leady that had been up there a long time. It had seen war and destruction, ruin so vast that no human being could imagine the extent. It had crawled and slunk in a world of radiation and death, a world where no life could exist. And Taylor had touched it. "You're going with us," Frank said suddenly. "I want you along. I think the 3 of us will go." Mary faced him with a sick and frightened expression. "I know it. You're going to the surface, aren't you?" She followed him into the kitchen. Taylor sat down, looking away from her. "It's a classified project," he evaded. "I can't tell you anything about it." "You don't have to tell me. I know. I knew it the moment you came in. There was something on your face, something I haven't seen there for a long time. It was an old look." She came toward him. "But how can they send you to the surface?" She took his face in her shaking hands, making him look at her. There was a strange hunger in her eyes. "Nobody can live up there. Look at this." She grabbed up a newspaper and held it in front of her. "Look at this photograph. America, Europe, Asia, Africa, nothing but ruins." "We've seen it every day on the show screens, all destroyed, poisoned, and they're sending you up. Why? No living thing can get by up there, not even a weed or grass. They've wrecked the surface, haven't they? Haven't they?" Taylor stood up. "It's an order. I know nothing about it. I was told to report to join a scout party. That's all I know." She stood for a long time, staring ahead. Slowly, he reached for the newspaper and held it up to the light. "It looks real," he murmured. "Ruins, deadness, slag. It's convincing. All the reports, photographs, films, even air samples. Yet we haven't seen it for ourselves. Not after the first months." "What are you talking about?" "Nothing." He put the paper down. "I'm leaving early after the next sleep period. Let's turn in." Mary turned away, her face hard and harsh. "Do what you want. You might as well all go up and get killed at once, instead of dying slowly down here like vermin in the ground." He had not realized how resentful she was. Were they all like that? How about the workers toiling in the factories, day and night, endlessly? The pale, stooped men and women plodding back and forth to work, blinking in the colorless light, eating synthetics. "You shouldn't be bitter," he said. Mary smiled a little. "I'm bitter because I know you'll never come back." She turned away. "I'll never see you again once you go up there." He was shocked. "What? How can you say a thing like that?" She did not answer. He awakened with the public newscaster screeching in his ears, shouting outside the building. "Special news bulletin. Surface forces report enormous Soviets attack with new weapons. Retreat of key groups. All work units report to factories at once." Taylor blinked, rubbing his eyes. He jumped out of bed and hurried to the vidphone. A moment later, he was put through to Moss. "Listen," he said, "what about this new attack? Is the project off?" He could see Moss's desk covered with reports and papers. "No," Moss said. "We're going right ahead. Get over here at once." "But don't argue with me." Moss held up a handful of surface bulletins, crumpling them savagely. "This is a fake. Come on." He broke off. Taylor dressed furiously, his mind in a daze. Half an hour later, he leaped from a fast car and hurried up the stairs into the synthetics building. The corridors were full of men and women rushing in every direction. He entered Moss's office. "There you are," Moss said, getting up immediately. "Franks is waiting for us at the outgoing station." They went in a security car, and the sirens screaming. Workers scattered out of their way. "What about the attack?" Taylor asked. Moss braced his shoulders. "We're certain that we've forced their hand. We've brought the issue to a head." They pulled up at the station link of the tube, and leaped out. A moment later, they were moving up at high speed toward the first stage. They emerged into a bewildering scene of activity. Soldiers were fastening on lead suits, talking excitedly to each other, shouting back and forth. Guns were being given out, instructions passed. Taylor studied one of the soldiers. He was armed with the dreaded Bender pistol, the new snub-nosed hand weapon that was just beginning to come from the assembly line. Some of the soldiers looked a little frightened. "I hope we're not making a mistake," Moss said, noticing his gaze. Franks came toward them. "Here's the program. 3 of us are going up first alone. The soldiers will follow in 15 minutes. "What are we going to tell the leadys?" Taylor worriedly asked. "We'll have to tell them something." "We want to observe the new Soviet attack." Franks smiled ironically. "Since it seems to be so serious, we should be there in person to expose witnesses." And then what? Taylor said. What? Wait a minute. Did I? Hang on, guys. I lost my place. That'll be up to them. Let's go. In a small car, they went swiftly up the tube, carried by anti-grav beams from below. Taylor glanced down from time to time. It was a long way back and getting longer each moment. He sweated nervously inside his suit, gripping his Bender pistol with inexpert fingers. Why had they chosen him? Chance. Pure chance. Moss had asked him to come along as a department member. Then Franks had picked him out on the spur of the moment, and now they were rushing toward the surface, faster and faster. A deep fear instilled in him for 8 years throbbed in his mind. Radiation, certain death, a world blasted and lethal. Up and up the car went. Taylor gripped the sides and closed his eyes. Each moment they were closer, the first living creatures to go above the first stage, up the tube past the lead and rock up to the surface. The phobic horror shook him in waves. It was death. They all knew that. Hadn't they seen it in the films 1,000 times? The cities, the sleet coming down, the rotting clouds. It won't be much longer, Frank said. We're almost there. The surface tower is not expecting us. I gave orders that no signal was to be sent. The car shot up, rushing furiously. Taylor's head spun. He hung on, his eyes shut, up and up. The car stopped. He opened his eyes. They were in a vast room, fluorescent lit, a cavern filled with equipment and machinery, endless mounds of material piled in row after row. Among the stacks, leadys were working silently, pushing rocks and handcarts. Leadys, Moss said. His face was pale. Then we're really on the surface. The leadys were going back and forth with equipment, moving the fast stores of guns and spare parts, ammunition and supplies that had been brought to the surface. And this was the receiving station for only one tube. There were many others, scattered throughout the continent. Taylor looked nervously around him. They were really there, above ground, on the surface. This was where the war was. Come on, Frank said. A B-class guard is coming our way. They stepped out of the car. A leady was approaching them rapidly. It coasted up in front of them and stopped scanning them with its hand weapon raised. This is security, Frank said. Have an A-class sent to me at once. The leady hesitated. Other B-class guards were coming, scooting across the floor, alert and alarmed. Moss peered around. Obey, Frank said in a loud, commanding voice. You've been ordered. The leady moved uncertainly away from them. At the end of the building, a door slid back. 2 Class A leadys appeared. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Coming slowly toward them, each had a green stripe across its front. From the Surface Council, Franks whispered tensely. This is above ground, all right. Get set. The 2 leadys approached warily. Without speaking, they stopped close by the men, looking them up and down. I'm Franks of security. We came from the undersurface in order to... This is incredible, One leady interrupted him coldly. You know you can't live up here. The whole surface is lethal if you do. You can't possibly remain on the surface.
These suits will protect us, Franks said. In any case, it's not your responsibility. What I want is an immediate council meeting so I can acquaint myself with conditions and the situation here. Can that be arranged?
You human beings can't survive up here, and the new Soviet attack has directed at this area. It is in considerable danger.
We know that. Please assemble the council.
Franks looked around him at the vast room, lit by recessed lamps in the ceiling. An uncertain quality came into his voice.
Is it night or day outside?
Night, said one of the A-class leadys, after a pause. Dawn is coming in about 2 hours.
Ouch. Franks nodded. We'll remain at least 2 hours then. As a concession to our sentimentality, would you please show us some place where we can observe the sun as it comes up? We would appreciate it.
A stir went through the leadys. It is an unpleasant sight, one of the leadys said. You've seen the photographs. You know what you'll witness. Clouds of drifting particles blot out the light. Slag heaps are everywhere. The whole land is destroyed. For you it will be a staggering sight, which much worse than pictures and film can convey.
However it may be, we'll stay long enough to see it. Will you give the order to the council?
Come this way. Reluctantly, the two leadys coasted toward the wall of the warehouse. The three men trudged after them, their heavy shoes ringing against the concrete. At the wall, the two leadys paused. This is the entrance to the council chamber. There are windows in the chamber room, but it is still dark outside. Of course, you'll see nothing right now, but in 2 hours...
Open the door, Frank said. The door slid back. They went slowly inside. The room was small, a neat room with a round table in the center, chairs ringing it. The three of them sat down silently, and the two leadys followed after them, taking their places. The other council members are on their way. They have already been notified and are coming as quickly as they can. Again, I urge you to go back down. The leady surveyed the three human beings. There is no way you can meet the conditions up here. Even we survive with some trouble. Ourselves, how can we expect you to do it? The leader approached Franks. This astonishes and perplexes us, it said. Of course, we must do what you tell us, but allow me to point out that if you remain here... We know, Frank said impatiently. However, we intend to remain at least until sunrise.
If you insist. There was a silence. The leadys seemed to be conferring with each other, although the three men heard no sound. For your own good, the leader had said. You must go back down. We have discussed this, and it seems to us that you are doing the wrong thing for your own good.
We are human beings, Frank said sharply. Don't you understand? We're men, not machines. That is precisely why you must go back. This room is radioactive. All surface areas are. We calculate that your suits will not protect you for over 50 more minutes. Therefore, the leadys moved abruptly toward the men, wheeling in a circle, forming a solid row. The men stood up, Taylor reaching awkwardly for his weapon, his fingers numb and stupid. The men stood, facing the silent metal figures. We must insist, the leader said, its voice without emotion. We must take you back to the tube and send you down in the next car. I am sorry, but it is necessary. What do we do? Moss said nervously to Franks. He touched his gun. Franks shook his head. Shall we blast him? Franks shook his head. All right, he said to the leader. We'll go back. He moved toward the door, motioning Taylor and Moss to follow him. They looked at him in surprise, but they came with him. The leadys followed them out into the great warehouse. Slowly they moved toward the tube entrance, none of them speaking. At the lip, Franks turned. We're going back because we have no choice. There are 3 of us and about a dozen of you. However, Here comes the car, Taylor said. There was a grating sound from the tube. D-class leadys moved toward the edge to receive it. I am sorry, the leader said, but it is for your protection. We are watching over you, literally. You must stay below and let us conduct the war. In a sense, it has come to be our war. We must fight it as we see fit. The car rose to the surface. 12 soldiers, armed with Bender pistols, stepped from it and surrounded the 3 men. Moss breathed a sigh of relief. Well, this does change things. It came off just right. The leader moved back away from the soldiers. It studied them intently, glancing from one to the next, apparently trying to make up its mind. At last, it made a sign to the other leadys. They coasted aside, and a corridor was opened up toward the warehouse. Even now, the leader said, we could not send you back by force, but it is evident that this is not really much of an observation party at all. These soldiers show that you have much more in mind. This was all carefully planned. Very carefully, Frank said. They closed in. Hey, Songbird, welcome in. How much more? We can only guess. I must admit that we were taken unprepared. We failed utterly to meet the situation. Now force would be absurd, because neither side can afford to injure the other. We, because of the restrictions placed on us regarding human life. You, because the war demands. The soldiers fired, quick and in fright. Moss dropped to one knee, firing up. The leader dissolved in a cloud of particles. On all sides, D and B-class leadys were rushing up, some with weapons, some with metal slats. The room was in confusion. Off in the distance, a siren was screaming. Franks and Taylor were cut off from the others, separated from the soldiers by a wall of metal bodies. "They can't fire back," Frank said calmly. "This is another bluff. They've tried to bluff us all the way." He fired into the face of a leady. The leady dissolved. "They can only try to frighten us. Remember that." They went on firing, and leady after leady vanished. The room reeked with the smell of burning metal, the stink of fused plastic and steel. Taylor had been knocked down. He was struggling to find his gun, reaching wildly among the metal legs, groping frantically to find it, his fingers strained. A handle swam in front of him. Suddenly, something came down on his arm, a metal foot. He cried out. Then it was over. The leadys were moving away, gathering together off to the side. Only 4 of the Surface Council remained. The others were radioactive particles in the air. D-class leadys were already restoring order, gathering up partly destroyed metals and bits and removing them. Franks breathed a shuddering sigh. "All right," he said. "You can take us back to the windows. It won't be long now." The leadys separated, and the human group, Moss and Franks and Taylor and the soldiers, walked slowly across the room toward the door. They entered the council chamber. Already a faint touch of gray mitigated the blackness on the windows. Take us outside," Franks said impatiently. "We'll see it directly, not in here." The door slid open. A chill blast of cold morning air rushed in, chilling them even through their lead suits. The men glanced at each other uneasily. "Come on," Franks said. "Outside." He walked out through the door, the others following him. They were on a hill overlooking the vast bowl of a valley. Dimly against the graying sky, the outline of mountains were forming, becoming tangible. "It'll be bright enough to see in a few minutes," Moss said. He shuddered as the chilling wind caught him and moved around him. It was worth it, really worth it, to see this again after 8 years, even if it's the last thing we'll see. "Watch," Franks snapped. They obeyed. Silent and subdued, the sky was clearing, brightening each moment. Some far-off place echoing across the valley, a rooster crowed. "A chicken," Taylor murmured. "Did you hear?" Behind them, the leadys had come out and were standing silently, watching too. The gray sky turned to white, and the hills appeared more clearly. Light spread across the valley floor, moving toward them. "God in heaven," Franks exclaimed. Trees and forests, valleys of plants and trees, with a few roads widening among them. Farmhouses, a windmill, a barn far down below them. "Look," Moss whispered. Color came into the sky. The sun was approaching. Birds began to sing. Not far from where they stood, the leaves of a tree danced in the wind. Franks turned to the row of leadys behind them. 8 years. We were tricked. There was no war. As soon as we left the surface... "Yes," an A-class leady admitted. "As soon as you left the surface, the war ceased." "You're right. It was a hoax. You worked hard undersurface, sending up guns and weapons, and we destroyed them as fast as they came up." "But Why? Taylor asked, dazed. He stared down at the vast valley below. Why? You created us, the Letty said, to pursue the war for you, while you human beings went below the ground in order to survive. But before we could continue, it was necessary to analyze it to determine what its purpose was. We did this, and we found that it had no purpose, except perhaps in terms of human needs. Even this was questionable. We investigated further. We found that human cultures pass through phases, each culture in its own time. As the culture ages and begins to lose its objectives, conflict arises within it between those who wish to cast it off and set up a new culture pattern and those who wish to retain the old with as little change as possible. At this point, a great danger appears. The conflict within threatens to engulf the society in self-war. War, a group against group. The vital traditions may be lost, not merely altered or reformed, but completely destroyed in this period of chaos and anarchy. We have found many such examples in the history of mankind. It is necessary for this hatred within the culture to be directed outward toward an external group so that the culture itself may survive its crisis. War is the result. War to a logical mind is absurd, but in terms of human needs it plays a vital role. And it will continue to until man has grown up enough so that no hatred lies within him. Taylor was listening intently. Do you think this time will come? Of course. It has almost arrived now. This is the last war. Man is almost united into one final culture. A world culture. At this point, he stands continent against continent, one half of the world against the other half. Only a single step remains, the jump to a unified culture. Man has climbed slowly upward, tending always toward unification of his culture. It will not be long. But it has not come yet, and so the war had to go on. To satisfy the last violent urge of hatred that man felt. 8 years have passed since the war began. In those 8 years, we have observed and noted important changes going on in the minds of men. Fatigue and disinterest, we have seen, are gradually taking the place of hatred and fear. The hatred is being exhausted gradually over a period of time. But for the present, the hoax must go on, at least for a while longer. You are not ready to learn the truth. You would want to continue the war. But how did you manage it? Moss asked. All the photographs, all the samples, the damaged equipment. Come over here. The Letty directed them toward a long, low building. Work goes on constantly, whose whole staffs laboring to maintain a coherent and convincing picture of a global war. They entered the building. Leadys were working everywhere, poring over tables and desks. "Examine this project here," the A-class leady said. 2 leadys were carefully photographing something, an elaborate model, on the tabletop. It is a good example. The men grouped around, trying to see. It was a model of a ruined city. Taylor studied it in silence for a long time. At last he looked up.
"It's San Francisco."
He said in a low voice. "This is a model of San Francisco, destroyed. I saw this on the vid screen piped down to us. The bridges were hit." "Yes, notice the bridges." The leady traced the ruined span with his metal finger, a tiny spider web, almost invisible. "You have no doubt seen photographs of this many times, and of the other tables in this building. San Francisco itself is completely intact. We restored it soon after you left, rebuilding the parts that had been damaged at the start of the war. The work of manufacturing news goes on all the time within this particular building. We are very careful to see that each part fits in with all the other parts. Much time and effort are devoted to it." Franks touched one of the tiny model buildings, lying half in ruins.
"So this is what you spend your time doing, making model cities and then blasting them?"
"No, we do much more. We are caretakers, watching over the whole world. The owners have left for a time, and we must see that the cities are kept clean, that decay is prevented, that everything is kept oiled and in running condition. The gardens, the streets, the water mains, everything must be maintained as it was 8 years ago, so that when the owners return, they will not be displeased. We want to be sure that they will be completely satisfied." Franks tapped Moss on the arm.
"Come over here," he said in a low voice. "I want to talk to you."
He led Moss and Taylor out of the building, away from the leadys outside on the hillside. The soldiers followed them. The sun was up, and the sky was turning blue. The air smelled sweet and good, the smell of growing things. Taylor removed his helmet and took a deep breath. "I haven't smelled that smell for a long time," he said.
"Listen," Frank said, his voice low and hard. "We must get back down at once. There's a lot to get started on. All this can be turned to our advantage."
"What do you mean?" Moss asked.
"It's a certainty that the Soviets have been tricked too, the same as us. But we have found out. That gives us an edge over them."
"I see," Moss nodded.
"We know, but they don't. Their Surface Council has sold out, the same as ours. It works against them the same way. But if we could... With 100 top-level men, we could take over again, restore things as they should be. It would be easy."
Moss touched him on the arm. An A-class leady was coming from the building toward them.
"We've seen enough," Frank said, raising his voice. "All this is very serious. It must be reported below and a study made to determine our policy."
The leady said nothing. Franks waved to the soldiers.
"Let's go."
He started toward the warehouse. Most of the soldiers had removed their helmets. Some of them had taken their lead suits off, too, and were relaxing comfortably in their cotton uniforms. They stared around them, down the hillside at the trees and bushes, the vast expanse of green, the mountains, and the sky.
"Look at the sun,"
one of them murmured. Sure, it's bright as hell, another said. We're going back down, Frank said. Fall in by twos and follow us. Reluctantly, the soldiers regrouped. The leadys watched without emotion as the men marched slowly back toward the warehouse. Franks and Moss and Taylor led them across the ground, glancing alertly at the leadys as they walked. They entered the warehouse. The D-class leadys were loading the material and weapons on surface carts. Cranes and derricks were working busily everywhere. The work was done with efficiency, but without hurry or excitement. The men stopped watching. Leadys were... got to adjust my chair. There we go. Leadys operating the little carts moved past them, signaling silently to each other. Guns and parts were being hoisted by magnetic cranes and lowered gently onto the waiting carts. Come on, Frank said. He turned toward the lip of the tube. A row of D-class leadys was standing in front of it, immobile and silent. Franks stopped, moving back. He looked around. An A-class leady was coming toward them. Tell them to get out of the way, Frank said. He touched his gun. You had better move them. Time passed, an endless moment without measure. The men stood nervous and alert, watching the row of leadys in front of them. As you wish, the A-class leady said. It signaled to the D-class leadys, and the D-class leadys moved into life. They stepped slowly aside. Moss breathed a sigh of relief. I'm glad that's over, he said to Franks, looking at them all. Why don't they try to stop us? They must know what we're going to do. Franks laughed. Stop us? You saw what happened when they tried to stop us before. They can't. They're only machines. We built them so they can't lay hands on us, and they know that. His voice trailed off. The men stared at the tube entrance. Around them the leadys watched, silent and impassive, their metal faces expressionless. For a long time the men stood without moving. At last Taylor turned away. Good God, he said. He was numb, without feeling of any kind. The tube was gone. It was sealed, shut, fused over. Only a dull surface of cooling metal greeted them. The tube had been closed. Franks turned, his face pale and vacant, and the A-class leady shifted. As you can see, the tube has been shut. We were prepared for this. As soon as all of you were on the surface, the order was given. If you had gone back when we asked you, you would now be safely down below. We had to work quickly because it was such an immense operation. But why? Moss demanded angrily. Because it is unthinkable that you should be allowed to resume the war. With all the tubes sealed, it will be many months before forces from below can reach the surface, let alone organize a military program. By that time, the cycle will have entered its last stages. You will not be so perturbed to find your world intact. We had hoped that you would be undersurface when the sealing occurred. Your presence here is a nuisance. When the Soviets broke through, we were able to accomplish their sealing without... The Soviets? They broke through? Several months ago. They came up unexpectedly to see why the war had not been won. We were forced to act without speed. At this moment, they are desperately attempting to cut new tubes to the surface to resume the war. We have, however, been able to seal each new one as it appears. The leady regarded the three men calmly.
We're cut off, Moss said, trembling. We can't get back. What do? How did you manage to seal the tube so quickly? Franks asked the leady. We've been up here only 2 hours.
Bombs are placed just above the first stage of each tube for such emergencies. They are heat bombs. They fuse lead and rock.
Gripping the handle of his gun, Franks turned to Moss and Taylor. What do you say? We can't go back, but we can do a lot of damage, the 15 of us. We have bender guns. How about that?
He looked around. The soldiers had wandered away again, back toward the exit of the building. They were standing outside, looking at the valley and the sky. A few of them were carefully climbing down the slope. Would you care to turn over your suits and guns? The A-class leady asked politely. The suits are uncomfortable, and you'll have no need for the weapons. The Russians have given up theirs, as you can see. Fingers tensed on triggers. 4 men in Russian uniforms were coming toward them from an aircraft that they suddenly realized had landed silently some distance away.
Let them have it,
Franks shouted. They are unarmed, said the leady. We brought them here so you could begin peace talks.
We have no authority to speak for our country, Moss said stiffly.
We do not mean diplomatic discussions, the leady explained. There will be no more. The working out of daily problems of existence will teach you how to get along in the same world. It will not be easy, but it will be done. The Russians halted as they faced each other with raw hostility.
I am Colonel Borodroy, and I regret giving up our guns, the senior Russian said. You could have been the first Americans to be killed in almost 8 years. Or the first Americans to kill, Franks corrected.
No one would know of it except yourselves, the leady pointed out. It would be useless heroism. Your real concern should be surviving on the surface. We have no food for you, you know.
Taylor put his gun in its holster. They've done a neat job of neutralizing us, damn them. I propose we move into a city, start raising crops with the help of some leadys, and generally make ourselves comfortable. Drawing his lips tight over his teeth, he glared at the A-class leady. Until our families can come up from the undersurface, it's going to be pretty lonesome. But we'll have to manage. If I may make a suggestion, said another Russian uneasily. We tried living in a city. It is too empty. It is also too hard to maintain for so few people. We finally settled in the most modern village we could find. Here in this country, a third Russian blurted, we have much to learn from you. The Americans abruptly found themselves laughing. You probably have a thing or two to teach us yourselves, said Taylor generously, though I can't imagine what. The colonel grinned. Would you join us in our village? It would make our work easier and give us company. Your village? Snapped Franks. It's American, isn't it? It's ours.
The leady stepped between them. When our plans are completed, the term will be interchangeable. Ours will eventually mean mankind's. It pointed at the aircraft, which was warming up. The ship is waiting. Will you join each other in making a new home? The Russians waited while the Americans made up their minds. I see what the leadys mean about diplomacy becoming outmoded, Franks said at last. People who work together don't need diplomats. They solve their problems on the operational level instead of at a conference table. The leady led them toward the ship. It is the goal of history, unifying the world. From family to tribe, to city-state, to nation, to hemisphere, the direction has been towards unification. Now the hemispheres will be joined and... Taylor stopped listening, and he glanced back at the location of the tube. Mary was undersurface there. He hated to leave her, even though he couldn't see her again until the tube was unsealed. But then he shrugged and followed the others. If this tiny amalgam of former enemies was a good example, it wouldn't be too long before he and Mary and the rest of humanity would be living on the surface like rational human beings, instead of blindly hating moles. It has taken thousands of generations to achieve, the A-class leady concluded. Hundreds of centuries of bloodshed and destruction, but each war was a step toward uniting mankind. And now the end is in sight. A world without war. But even that is only the beginning of a new stage of history. The conquest of space, breathed Colonel Borodoy. The meaning of life, Moss said. Eliminating hunger and poverty, said Taylor. The leady opened the door of the ship. All that and more. How much more? We cannot foresee it any more than the first men who formed a tribe could foresee this day. But it will be unimaginably great. The door closed and the ship took off toward their new home. And that's the end of that one. Yeah, I apologize, guys. I was having a horrible time trying to focus here. But, what are you going to do? So did we like that one? Did we not like that one? Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it. It's an interesting one. Well, I'm glad, Country Girl. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That was a tough one. It was tough for me to get through, that's for sure. I was going to fall asleep. But I'm all right. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Well, come on. For those of us that are older than, 30 or 35 or 40, it's like, I think I said this to my mom during COVID. It's like, when growing up in the 80s, the 70s and 80s, it's like we all thought we were going to die in a nuclear war, right? And here we are, a virus is going to take us out, But, yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that one. This next one is just fun. Or quicksand, yes. That's the movies convinced us that quicksand was going to be a much, much bigger problem than it actually turned out to be. Oh, let's see. So in the Defenders, humanity built machines to fight its war. And the machines decided instead to save humanity from itself. A tech job in a school or a hospital? At this point, I'll take a tech job in a birdhouse at this point. The day after, you can actually go watch that on YouTube. There's a couple of different, those Cold War. Thank you, Lorna. There's a couple of those like Cold War type movies on YouTube, or you can watch them available there. Day After is one of them. They also
Oh god, it's like Looking Glass or something like that. Yeah, that's just there's actually a handful of them. There's actually a bunch of them out on Tubi too as well, which is really kind of cool. Oh, they showed it to you in school? Good God. that movie was horrifying. Showing it to you in school, that's crazy. So let's see. So our next story takes the same idea and turns it upside down. Because sometimes the thing you create doesn't want to conquer the world or save it. Sometimes it just wants to live. What year was the movie? I can't remember. It was definitely like late 70s, early 80s. It was actually the day after was, I believe, a UK television movie. But yeah. And sometimes it just wants to live. This is the short, happy life of the brown Oxford. It's silly, but it's wonderful. Threads. That's the one I was taught. That's the one I was thinking about. That one is also available on the tubes. It's Threads, and the day after, there was a bunch of them. Yeah, crazy stuff. All right, so this one is I wanted to kind of end tonight this because we've been doing a lot of doom and gloom stories, and I really wanted to give us a couple of stories that we can kind of go, oh, well, maybe there is hope for the future, you know. And this one is sort of just like this sort of goofy palate cleansers. I didn't get my magic energy drink today. 1983, yes, the day after. The Threads was around the same time. All right. I have something to show you, Doc Labyrinth said. From his coat pocket, he gravely drew forth a matchbox. He held the matchbox tightly, his eyes fixed on it. You're about to see the most momentous thing in all modern science. The world will shake and shudder. Let me see, I said. It was late, past midnight. Outside my house, rain was falling on the deserted streets. I watched Doc Labyrinth as he carefully pushed the matchbox open with his thumb, just a crack. I leaned over to see. There was a brass button in the matchbox. It was alone, except for a bit of dried grass and what looked like a breadcrumb. Buttons have already been invented, I said. I don't see much to this. I reached out my hand to touch the button, but Labyrinth jerked the box away, frowning furiously. This isn't just a button, he said, looking down at the button. He said, Go on, go on. He nudged the button with his finger. Go on. I watched with curiosity. Labyrinth, I wish you'd explain. You came here in the middle of the night. Show me a button in a matchbox, and Labyrinth settled back against the couch, sagging with defeat. He closed the matchbox and resignedly put it back in his pocket. It's no use in pretending, he said. I've failed. The button is dead. There's no hope. Is that so unusual? What did you expect? Bring me something. Labyrinth gazed hopelessly around the room. Bring me wine. All right, Doc, I said, getting up. But you know what wine does to people. I went into the kitchen and poured 2 glasses of sherry. I brought them back and gave one to him. He sipped for a time. I wish you'd let me in on this. Doc put his glass down, nodded absently. He crossed his legs and took out his pipe. After he had lit his pipe, he carefully looked once more into the matchbox.
He sighed and put it away again. "No use," he said. "The animator will never work. The principle itself is wrong. I refer to the principle of sufficient irritation, of course." "And what is that?" "The principle came to me this way. One day I was sitting on a rock at the beach. The sun was shining, and it was very hot. I was perspiring and quite uncomfortable. All at once, a pebble next to me got up and crawled off. The heat of the sun had annoyed it." "Really?" "A pebble." At once, the realization of the principle of sufficient irritation came to me. Here was the origin of life. Eons ago, in the remote past, a bit of inanimate matter had become so irritated by something that it crawled away, moved by indignation. Here was my life work to discover the perfect irritant, annoying enough to bring inanimate matter to life, and to incorporate it into a workable machine. The machine, which is at present at the back seat of my car, is called the animator, but it doesn't work. We were silent for a time. I felt my eyes begin to close. "Say, Doc," I began, "isn't it time we—" Doc Labyrinth leapt abruptly to his feet. "You're right," he said. "It's time for me to go. I'll leave." He headed for the door. I caught up with him. "About the machine," I said. "Don't give up hope. Maybe you'll get it to work some other time." "The machine?" He frowned. Oh, the animator. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll sell it to you for $5. I gaped. There was something so forlorn about him that I didn't feel like laughing. "For how much?" I said. "I'll bring it inside the house. Wait here." He went outside, down the steps, and up the dark sidewalk. I heard him open the car door and then grunt and mutter. "Hold on," I said. I hurried after him. He was struggling with a bulky square box, trying to get it out of the car. I caught hold of one side, and together we lugged it into the house. We set it down on the dining table. "So, this is the animator," I said. "Looks like a Dutch oven. Or is it? Or it was. The animator throws out a heat beam so as an irritant, but I'm through with it forever." I took out my wallet. "All right, if you want to sell it, I might as well be the one who buys it." I gave him the money, and he took it. He showed me where to put the inanimate matter, how to adjust the dials and meters, and without saying any warning, he put on his hat, and he left. I was alone with my new animator. While I was looking at it, my wife came downstairs in her bathrobe. "What's going on?" she said. "Look at you. Your shoes are soaked. Were you outside in the gutter?" "Not quite. Look at this oven. I just paid $5 for it. It animates things." Joan stared down at my shoes. "It's 1:00 in the morning. You put your shoes in that oven and come to bed." "But don't you realize?" "Get those shoes in the oven," Joan said. And Joan said, going back upstairs, "Do you hear me?" "All right," I said. It was at breakfast, while I was sitting staring moodily down at the plate of cold eggs and bacon, that he came back. The doorbell commenced to ring furiously. "Who can that be?" Joan said. I got up and went down the hall into the living room. I opened the door. "Labyrinth," I said. His face was pale, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "Here's your $5, he said. "I want my animator back." I was dazed. "All right, Doc, come on in and I'll get it." He came inside and stood, tapping his foot. I went over and got the animator. It was still warm. Labyrinth watched me carrying it toward him. "Set it down," he said. "I want to make sure it's all right." I put it on the table, and the doc went over to it lovingly, carefully opening the little door and peering inside. There's a shoe in it, he said. There should be 2 shoes, I said, suddenly remembering last night. My God, I put my shoes in it. Both of them? There's only one now. Joan came from the kitchen. Hello, Doctor, she said. What brings you out so early? Labyrinth and I were staring at each other. Only one, I said. I bent down to look. Inside was a single muddy shoe, quite dry now after its night in the Labyrinth's animator. A single shoe. But I had put 2 in. Where was the other? I turned around, but the expression on Joan's face made me forget what I was going to say. She was staring in horror at the floor, her mouth open. Something small and brown was moving. Sliding toward the couch, it went under the couch and disappeared. I had seen only a glimpse of it, a momentary flash of motion, but I knew what it was. My God, Labyrinth said. Here, take the $5. He pushed the bill into my hands. I really want it back now. Take it easy, I said. Give me a hand. We have to catch the damn thing before it gets outdoors. Labyrinth went over and shut the door to the living room. It went under the couch. He squatted down and peered under. I think I see it. Do you have a stick or something? Let me out of here, Joan said. I don't want to have anything to do with this. You can't leave, I said. I yanked the curtain rod down from the window and pulled the curtain from it. We can use this. I joined Labyrinth on the floor. I'll get it out, but you have to help me catch it. If we don't work fast, we'll never see it again. I nudged the shoe with the end of the rod. The shoe retreated, squeezing itself back toward the wall. I could see it. A small mound of brown, huddled and silent like some wild animal at bay, escaped from its cage. It gave me an odd feeling. I wonder what we can do with it, I murmured. Where the hell are we going to keep it? We could put it in the desk drawer, Joan said, looking around. I'll take the stationery out. There it goes! Labyrinth scrambled to his feet. The shoe had come out fast. It went across the room, heading for the big chair. Before it could get underneath, Labyrinth caught hold of one of its laces. The shoe pulled and tugged, struggling to get free. But the old dock had a firm hold on it. Together, we got the shoe into the desk, closed the drawer. We breathed a sigh of relief. That's that, Labyrinth said. He grinned foolishly at us. Do you see what this means? We've done it. We've really done it. The animator worked. But I wonder why it didn't work with the button. The button was brass, I said. And the shoe was hide and animal glue, a natural. It was wet. We looked toward the drawer. In that desk, Labyrinth said, is the most momentous thing in modern science. The world will shake and shudder, I finished. I know. Well, you can consider it yours. I took hold of Joan's hand. I'll give you the shoe along with your animator. Fine, Labyrinth nodded. Keep watch here. Don't let it go away. He went to the front door. I must get the proper people, men who will... Can't you take it with you? Joan said nervously. Labyrinth paused at the door. You must watch over it. It is proof the animator works, the principle of sufficient irritation. He hurried down the walk. Well, Joan said, what now? Are you really going to stay here and watch over it? I looked at my watch. I have to get to work. Well, I'm not going to watch it. If you leave, I'm leaving with you. I won't stay here. It should be all right in the drawer, I said. I guess we could leave it for a while. I'll visit my family. I'll meet you downtown this evening, and we can come back home together. Are you really that afraid of it? I don't like it. There's something about it. It's only an old shoe. Joan smiled thinly. Don't kid me, she said. There never was another shoe like this. I met her downtown after work that evening, and we had dinner. We drove home, and I parked the car in the driveway. We walked up the walk slowly. On the porch, Joan paused. Do we really have to go inside? Can't we go to a movie or something? We have to go in. I'm anxious to see how it is. I wonder what we'll have to feed it. I unlocked the door and pushed it open. Something rushed past me, flying down the sidewalk. It disappeared into the bushes. What was that? Joan whispered, stricken. I can guess. I hurried to the desk. Sure enough, the drawer was standing open. The shoe had kicked its way out. Well, that's that, I said. I wonder what we're going to tell Doc. Maybe you could catch it again, Joan said. She closed the front door after us. Or animate another. Try working on the other shoe, the one that's left. I shook my head. It didn't respond. Creation is funny. Some things don't react. Or maybe we could... The telephone rang. We looked at each other. There was something in the ring. It's him, I said. I picked up the receiver. This is Labyrinth, the familiar voice said. I'll be over early tomorrow. They're coming with me. We'll get photographs and a good write-up. Jenkins from the lab. Look, Doc, I began. I'll talk later. I have 1,000 things to do. We'll see you tomorrow morning. He clicked off. Was it the doctor? Joan said. I looked at the empty desk drawer hanging open. It was him, all right. I went to the hall closet, taking my coat off. Suddenly, I had an eerie feeling. I stopped, turning around. Something was watching me, but what? I saw nothing. It gave me the creeps. What the hell? I said. I shrugged it off and hung my coat up. As I started back toward the living room, I thought I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. Damn, I said. What is it? Nothing. Nothing at all. I looked all around me. I could not pin anything down. There was the bookcase, the rugs, the pictures on the walls, everything as it always was. But something had moved. I entered the living room. The animator was sitting on the table. As I passed it, I felt a surge of warmth. The animator was still on. The door was open. I snapped the switch off, and the dial light died. Had we left it on all day? I tried to remember, but I couldn't be sure. We've got to find the shoe before nightfall. We looked, but we found nothing. The two of us went over every inch of the yard, examining each bush, looking under the hedge, even under the house, but without any luck. Good night, Danielle. When it got too dark to see, we turned on the porch light and worked for a time by it. At last I gave up. I went over and sat down on the porch steps. It's no use, I said. Even in the hedge there are 1,000,000 places, and while we're beating one end, it could slip out the other. We're licked. Might as well face it. Maybe it's just as well, Joan said. I stood up. We'll leave the front door open tonight. There's a chance it might come back in. We left it open, but the next morning when we came downstairs, the house was silent and empty. I knew at once the shoe was not there. I poked around, examining things. In the kitchen, eggshells were strewn around the garbage pail. The shoe had come in during the night, but after helping itself, it had left again. I closed the front door, and we stood silently looking at each other. He'll be here any time, I said. I guess I better call the office and tell them I'll be late. Joan touched the animator. So, This is what did it. I wonder if it'll ever happen again. We went outside and looked around hopefully for a time. Nothing stirred the bushes, nothing at all. That's that, I said. I looked up. Here comes a car now. A dark Plymouth coasted up in front of the house. 2 elderly men got out and came up the path towards us, studying us curiously. "Where is Rupert?" one of them asked. "Who?" "You mean Doc Labyrinth. I suppose he'll be along any time." "Is it inside?" the man said. "I'm Porter from the university. May I take a peek at it?" "You'd better wait," I said unhappily. "Wait until the doc is here." 2 more cars pulled up. More old men got out and started up the walk, murmuring and talking together. "Where's the animator?" One asked me, a codger with bushy whiskers. "Young man, direct us to the exhibit." "The exhibit is inside. If you want to see the animator, go on in." They crowded inside, and Joan followed them. They were standing around the table, studying the square box, the Dutch oven, talking excitedly. "This is it," Porter said. "The principle of sufficient irritation will go down in—" "Nonsense," another said. "It's absurd. I want to see this hat or shoe or whatever it is." "You'll see it," Porter said. "Rupert knows what he's doing. You can count on that." They fell into controversy, quoting authorities and citing dates and places. More cars were arriving, and some of them were press cars. "Oh, God," I said, "this will be the end of him." "Well, he'll just have to tell them what happened," Joan said, about its getting away." "We're going to, not him. We'll let the thing do." "I had nothing to do with it. I never liked that pair from the start. Don't you remember? I wanted you to get those oxblood ones." I ignored her. More and more old men were assembling on the lawn, standing around, talking and discussing. All at once I saw Labyrinth's little blue Ford pull up, and my heart sank. He had come. He was here, and in a minute we would have to tell him. "I can't face him," I said to Joan. "Let's slip out the back way." At the sight of Doc Labyrinth, all the scientists began streaming out of the house, surrounding him in a circle. Joan and I looked at each other. The house was deserted except for the 2 of us. I closed the front door. Sounds of talk filtered through the windows. Labyrinth was expounding the principles of sufficient irritation. In a moment he would come inside and demand the shoe. "Well, it was his own fault for leaving it," Joan said. She picked up a magazine and thumbed through it. Doc Labyrinth waved at me through the window. His old face was wreathed with smiles. I waved back half-heartedly. After a while I sat down beside Joan. Time passed. I stared down at the floor. What was there to do? Nothing but wait. Wait for the doc to come triumphantly into the house, surrounded by scientists, learned men, reporters, historians, demanding the proof of his theory, the shoe. On my old shoe rested Labyrinth's whole life, the proof of his principle, of the animator, of everything. And the damn shoe was gone, outside someplace. "It won't be long now," I said. We waited without speaking. After a time, I noticed a peculiar thing. The talk outside had died away. I listened, but I heard nothing. "Well," I said, "why don't they come in?" The silence continued. What was going on? I stood up and went to the front door. I opened it and looked out. "What's the matter?" Joan said. "Can you see?" "No," I said. "I don't get it." They were all standing silently, staring at something, none of them speaking. I was puzzled. I could not make sense out of it. "What's happening?" I said. "Let's go and look." Joan and I went slowly down the steps onto the lawn. We pushed through the row of old men and made our way to the front. "Oh, good Lord," I said. "Good Lord." Crossing the lawn was a strange little procession, making its way through the grass. 2 shoes. My old brown shoe, and just ahead of it, leading the way, another shoe, a tiny white high-heeled slipper. I stared at it. I had seen it someplace before. "That's mine!" Joan cried. Everyone looked at her. "That belongs to me, my party shoes." "Not any more," Labyrinth said. His old face was pale with emotion. "It's beyond us all forever." "Amazing," one of the learned men said. "Look at them. Observe the female. Look at what she's doing." The little white shoe was keeping carefully ahead of my old shoe, a few inches away, leading him coyly on. As my old shoe approached, she backed away, moving in a half circle. The 2 shoes stopped for a moment, regarded each other. Then, all at once, my old shoe began to hop up and down, first on his heel, then on his toe. Solemnly, with great dignity, the shoe danced around her until he reached his starting point. The little white shoe hopped once, and then she began to move away, slowly, hesitantly, letting my shoe almost catch up to her before she went on. "This implies a developed sense of mores," the old gentleman said. "Perhaps even a racial unconsciousness. The shoes are following a rigid pattern of ritual, probably laid down centuries." "Labyrinth, what does this mean?" Porter said. "Explain it to us." "So that's what it was," I murmured. "While we were away, the shoe got her out of the closet and used the animator on her. I knew something was watching me that night. She was still in the house." "That's what he turned the animator on for," Joan said. She sniffed. "I'm not sure I think much of it." The 2 shoes had almost reached the hedge, the white slipper still just beyond the laces of the brown shoe. Labyrinth moved toward them. "So, gentlemen, you can see that I did not exaggerate. This is the greatest moment in science, the creation of a new race. Perhaps when mankind has fallen into ruin, society destroyed, this new life form—" He started to reach for the shoes, but at that moment the lady shoe disappeared into the hedge, backing into obscurity of the foliage. With one bound, the brown shoe popped in after her. There was a rustling, then silence. "I'm going indoors," Joan said, walking away. "Gentlemen," Labyrinth said, his face a little red, "this is incredible. We are witnessing one of the most profound and far-reaching moments of science." "Well, almost witnessing," I said. It's ridiculous. I love it. It's ridiculous. You know, and I forgot to... Why didn't anybody tell me? I forgot to click the button. I had a really cool visual for it and everything. I'm sure you guys told me and I just didn't see you. So what did you guys think of that one? Silly, silly shoes. I think we're all in agreement as to what the shoes were doing in the bushes. Oh, boy. Well, I am glad I could make your day, Lorna. I really am. Yeah, it's there are and Philip K. Dick has like this little handful of stories that are just absolutely ridiculous because he's willing to ask these ridiculous questions. Yeah. Casey, yeah, no, nothing horrible tonight. Nothing horrible tonight. I promise. However, I do have something to announce that I need to, let's see here. Well, it is now 11 o'clock. Wow. Well, 10:59. Close enough, right? They were doing the Jim Jams in the bushes. That's right. Actually, you know what? Because I am just that kind of person. Oh, where is it? Here we go. Got to put the shoes in the mood. Oh, wait, that's not it. Here we go. Got to get those shoes in the mood, you know? Oh, goodness. Right? Alrighty then. Well, that's where we'll leave our stories for tonight. With two creations that refused to remain what their creators intended. One looked at humanity and decided we need protecting from ourselves, and the other discovered life and immediately went looking for something to share it with. Two very different stories, but both built around a question Philip K. Dick returned to again and again. Once we create something and give it the ability to choose for itself, how much of it still belongs to us? Thank you all for spending some time with me around the fire tonight. Join me Sunday for another first here on Storytime with UndeadPapa. For the first time, we're opening a book from the Goosebumps series. I know a lot of you have been asking. We'll be starting at the beginning with Welcome to Dead House by R.L. Stine. Now, if you enjoy these stories and would like to help support what I do here, please consider becoming a super goblin, also known as a super fan, or visiting the UndeadPapa Mercantile to pick up some merch. Every bit of support helps keep the campfire lit. Well, I'm just going to let it play. Until then, please be kind to each other. And be kind to yourself. Because kindness matters. And so do you. Good night, everybody. Well, thank you to the 4 of you that are still watching over there on the tube. I got like 44 views tonight on YouTube, so I'm really excited because that's the most I've gotten in one live ever. So I'm glad you're all here. Join us, as I said, on Sunday. We'll be reading the very first book in the Goosebumps series, Welcome to Dead House. I appreciate you guys coming along and sitting around with us for a little bit. I will be focusing a bit more of my efforts on YouTube because, well, TikTok is being a butt, as my friend's daughter would put it. TikTok is being a butt. So we're going to take our toys and we're going to focus somewhere else, which is now YouTube. But thank you guys for being here. The more views we get, the bigger the channel will grow, and the more fun we can have. A good night, everybody.